The following is a Live the Dream Media production.
Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in Southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltalon.com. Again, that's selltalon.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Now You Know. We're going to probably do a little local Miranda blend in here too because of our guest. He's a special guest. One of my buddies, one of my good guys right here, Daniel Romero.
Hi.
Happy
Glad to
Thursday.
be here. Yeah, happy Thursday.
Of course, I don't know what day you're watching it, but let's go.
No, yeah, it could have been Wednesday, could have been Thursday, but now.
Hey, what have you been doing all morning? Since I know 7:45, so 3 hours ago I saw you, and what have you been doing the last 3.5 hours?
We've got this dirt lot back out here. We're going to just grade it all out so that we can start using that as our material supply house, roof tiles, things, building materials, just so instead of having to keep all that stuff inside, taking up
blueprint
blueprint
roofing?
home surfaces. Yep.
And what else you got going on over there? I know you're... Anything you want to talk about? Because I know you got some stuff brewing. But
yeah, things with business are moving really fast. As much as I'd love to promote it, it's probably a distraction. The biggest push that we're going for right now, though, because we've been doing roofing for a while now. Number one problem we run into on roofing, though, at least lately, is people who have solar on their roof, right? When they have solar on the roof, they have to get it taken off for the roof work to happen and then put back on. What seems to be a pattern that is arising is all of these companies that are taking the solar off and putting it back on, usually the original installer, are charging an arm and a leg to do that. So somebody calls us out. We go out for a roof estimate. We give them the number. Of course, it's high. It hurts, right? Roofs are expensive. Let's just say it's $20,000, right? Then the next step is, well, now you got to reach out to your solar company, have them come get it out of our way so we can do our job, right? And I in the last year, this has probably happened close to 40 times where a customer calls and they say, hey, the solar company said it's going to be 10, 12 grand to get these panels out of the way. Now I can't do the roof project at all, right? So what we're working on is building out our own team that we can do that in-house, ideally being able to market to that to where we're able to give a very heavily discounted price for us to take the panels off and put them back on for us to do the roof. And I think that's going to really do some amazing stuff in this market because there's a lot of solar out there.
Yeah.
So
moral to this story is...
Moral to the story is get your roof done before you put solar on it. If your roof is definitely more than 15 years old, then you probably ought to wait. 12 years is kind of right there on the borderline because the last thing you want to have to do is have to, pull those panels back off and put them back on only a couple years later. Especially at that high of a price point, then it's like for the $30 to $40 you're saving each month. Now you add $10,000 in expense to that. It wasn't worth it.
So when you mentioned 12 to remove the solar, is that 12 to remove it and put it back? Or?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of these companies are charging per panel. So prices are ranging anywhere from $200 per panel to I've even seen recently $400 per panel. You figure the average house that has solar on it's got about 30 panels. 30 panels times 400 is 12 grand, and then. Yeah, so it's adds 50% of the already $20,000 roof cost that they were getting, and now they can't do the project. So
if you're 10 years old or older on your roof and you're thinking about solar, you better call Daniel first, and then complete the process.
It's a very good idea. Ideally, you want your roof to be about the same age as your solar. Even if you just replace the roof that the solar is going to go under and then leave the rest of the roof for later. That's still a lot better than, being anxious, throwing solar up there and then having to take it off in a couple of years and all of the savings that you've accumulated over those last couple of years gets wiped out. So
So name your company again one more time real quick.
Blueprint Home Services. We do mostly roofing, solar, painting. We're starting to get a lot more into interior work, flooring. We do just about anything. If we don't do it, then I usually know a great person here locally that will. So all about just trying to keep the work in the good people of the community and the ones that are going to provide a quality service at a fair price.
You know, Daniel's been a neighbor of ours now. What? How long you been here? 3 years?
3 years.
4
Yep.
years?
We just renewed our lease for another 3.
Beautiful.
So we'll be here for another 3.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah. Yeah.
What'd we have? Chick-fil-A or what were we eating in here that day?
I think it was some chicken. Chick-fil-A sounds right. Yeah.
We
and just walked in and got
broke
fed.
bread. Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. And we've developed a friendship over Chick-fil-A. Hey, so guys, heads up, warning. By the way, Scott, jump in here real quick. Scott Robb in the house.
Looking for me?
Yes, I'm looking for you. Scott, the engineer of this outstanding podcast, is now live in there. What do you got back there, Scott? Anything new this morning? I want to shout you out because in 48 hours you're going to be on a plane to.
That's right. In 48 hours, I'm going to be in Ecuador doing a missions trip. I've retired as a paramedic, and I will be performing some medical care into the Andes and the Amazon rainforest.
And you're going to 10 days, right?
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, we're getting ready to go down a rabbit hole, so feel free to jump in here anytime you want.
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah.
You got it.
So Daniel and I were standing out here last
Talking
week.
a couple days ago, yeah.
Well, which we do fairly regular. And I'm like, save that for the podcast. Guys, we're going to talk about AI. And before everybody freaks out about AI, I was thinking about this when I laid down last night. You know, we've been dealing with AI forever.
Right.
The first time we had an electronic, there's AI.
Sure.
Something that every one of you have something in your home right now that's been AI that if you're 5 months to 100 years old, you've dealt with this, and it's your thermostat.
Sure. Yeah, well, I think that's what makes it. When you're looking at it from there's a couple of different lenses to look at AI through, right? There's a lot of really cool advancements that when you look down the road into the future, you can be like, man, that's going to make things amazing, or that would be great, or there's a good side to it. Obviously, anytime there's a good side, there's always a bad side to it too, right? So the one of the scary parts of AI is. Because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today that are just kind of some random thoughts that I've been kind of just working on, shaping and molding for, I'd say, probably the last 4 years. And the scary part about it is how subtle that AI can be introduced into our lives. So it's like I have a feeling that a lot of the things we're going to say today, people are going to be like, oh gosh, no, I would never let that happen. I would never want to live in that world. I would never allow myself to be victim to something like that. But you're not going to see it coming, right? Like you're already being manipulated by AI on websites that you're using. You go to a website and you think, oh man, well that was a really good experience. That was a very simple transaction. Things were great, right? But there was AI behind the scenes making that process.
That's what algorithms
simple,
are
right?
all about.
Right.
Is tracking your behavior.
Right. So it's like it's not like just all of a sudden one day everything's going to be here. And we're going to have a choice as humanity saying like, yeah, I'll partake in that or not. It's going to slowly and gradually work up to that point. Kind of like, they're going to get you hooked first, right? They get you hooked where you need it. You're dependent upon it. And then there's no turning back from there, right? And to a certain degree, that's already happened.
Well,
right?
2 days ago,
yeah,
if you were on digital, we were all affected for a couple hours and people were losing their minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll come back to it in a couple hours. It'll be back, and it was. But can you imagine if it'd been a day? That's an addiction.
Yeah. Well, then you've got that other part of it too, where it's like technology is not perfect, right? So I think everybody feels empowered now because everyone thinks, well, it's a computer. You unplug it and it doesn't, but eventually there's going to be that computer out there that whoever's
just
running
can't
it
unplug.
ain't unplugging it. Yeah. So
Have your what do they call them at home? The Hey Google or what do
yeah,
they call
like
them?
the little Echo Dots or
They
whatever.
get to talking to each other, especially like Super Bowl or something. If they're shouting those out, I've had the TV and the what have I got? The Google or whatever it is, talking to each other.
Yeah.
My wife's going, what's going on in there? And I'm like, the TV and the box is talking to itself.
Right. Well, I mean, so with automations, right? Home automations, things like that. There's still a human being that's setting it up. There's still a human being who's setting the parameters, saying, if this happens, I want this, and this to happen as a result. I think what a lot of people have started to talk about in probably the last year or two is AI's ability to learn, right? And AI can very quickly surpass the level of intelligence of a human being, right? So it starts to get to know our patterns. It starts to get to know what we like, what we don't like, what we want to have happen, all of these types of things. And then all of a sudden it just starts making those decisions for us as opposed to needing that command to happen, right? So, yeah, it's cool. We can automate our houses, right? But what about automating your life, right? Just for example, a month ago, Elon Musk did the first brain chip in a human, right? Had you heard about that?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, so first one in a human. Now, right now, he's putting them in like people who, like paraplegics or and they're just kind of testing some stuff out and seeing what they can make happen. The ultimate goal, being at least for this like first phase of it, is he wants you to be able to control your phone or a computer. But with your thoughts,
right?
As opposed to
impulse.
as opposed to having to touch the button, right? If I know I need to call Clint, it's
Bewitched stuff.
Yeah,
you guys aren't old enough to remember that, but it's magic.
Yeah, it just happens, right? So that poses the question that I'm sure somebody somewhere is asking it, which is so if we're working one way, right? If I can control my phone with my thoughts. That's great. And that keeps us kind of in power, right? Because we're doing the controlling. But for a fact that it's not going to be long after that happens that there's going to be a two-way command, right? So think about this, right? Like we won't even need phones, right? Like everyone's so reliant on their phone. Everyone has their phone in their hand nonstop. I think they say you look at your phone more times than you blink in a day, okay? Because it's just constant. You're checking the time, it vibrates, you get a notification, you get all of this stuff. We're constantly looking at our phones, right? Phones are going to go away. We won't need them in this progression, right? So what'll end up happening is, and this is kind of what I've scoped out on my thing, and I can see where like some of the beginning parts of this is happening, right? So Facebook went to Meta not that long ago. Right, and they've got the metaverse, which is basically a world, right? That people are like buying real estate and stuff in the metaverse. So when that is complete, and you figure Facebook is stemming from metaverse. Well, what's Facebook? Facebook's a social media platform, right? So Meta's going to have a lot of those same components. Really, it's just going to be another social media platform, but instead of these like 2D self images that you make your profile picture of, what they're more so shooting for is like avatars, right? To where I have this real similar life looking
that lives in the meta world,
that lives in the metaverse, and stays there, right? Now there's some really cool things about that, right? But eventually, so if you have an avatar and I have an avatar, and my brain knows that I need to ask you a question, I don't need a phone. My avatar just needs to go and link up with your avatar. Your avatar knows what answer you would give. Yeah. They figure it out here on the back scene, in the background, and then let's say this happens while I'm sleeping, right? And then I just wake up with the information. Clint says yes. right? Whatever question it was, Clint says yes. And then I just wake up and I move forward, right? So let's look at that. And that would be even kind of fun. We can break these down like good and bad, right? Highly efficient.
Right.
I don't need to make the phone call. I don't need to hope you answer. I don't have to wait for you to call back. I don't need you to text. My avatar and your avatar don't need sleep.
Right.
They figure it out, and that information just comes back to me, right? I don't know how often I'm going to see Clint anymore. I don't need to, right? Everything I need to communicate with you is happening behind the scenes, and just so I think that's going to be something that's going to right now. Everything they're talking about is one way, right? It's our brains controlling our phones. But what happens when our phones start controlling our brains, right? Because it starts feeding this information in there, and now
it's already happening. But this is a direct link.
Self-indulge.
Right now, it's self-indulge. Now we're going to implant that. It's Jetsons on steroids.
Oh yeah, no, it's
for me personally.
Well, it's more intuitive. It's more intuitive than Jetson, right? Jetsons had some cool gadgetry and flying cars and stuff, but the level of sophistication here that it's going to get to, where because I forget who said it, but somebody said like their biggest fear with AI is not what it is today, but it's it's the rapid speed that AI can improve on itself, right? And so it's going to very quickly get to a point where humans aren't controlling the AI is controlling the people, right? Now, good and bad to that too. Good is did you read what I sent you, or pieces of it?
I don't know that I did.
No? About
Tell me.
So it's I sent you over this article, and the way the thought started was it was like 2020. I don't know why I was thinking about Hollywood and the world of entertainment, right? I think I was thinking about influence marketing, right? Because my wife at the time, she was running Kins and K. One of the big things was influencer marketing, right? And of course, you're going on, you're seeing who has how many followers, so you can try to get your product to that people so that you can reach their fan base, right?
Right.
And you've got some of these influencers that are no names but have huge followings, and they're cheaper because nobody really knows their name, right? And then you've got like the Kim Kardashians and the Kanye Wests of the world, and to bring them on as an influencer, it's going to cost a ton of money,
Lots of zeros.
So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, with avatars, and we're starting to make them even more lifelike, like, how cool would it be if we could rent a celebrity's avatar to use for our marketing? It didn't necessarily have to be the person, so we didn't have to get on their schedule. We didn't have to fly them anywhere. We didn't have to fly anywhere. We didn't have to actually have them shoot. I could just have I could have what I want my commercial to look like, and then I could say who I want in it, right? Well, then the thought, and so a little bit of help was from the fact that we've been using Tupac's voice forever, and they just keep creating new songs of his because they have his voice. So we could make an avatar that looks just like us, that sounds just like us, and now with Neuralink from Elon Musk, we'll actually get to know our behaviors, our patterns, everything we do, what our stories are, what we say, how we say it, all of these types of things, right? But and it'll know that. It'll just know it, right? And it'll just keep improving. The longer we live with this thing on our brain, the more it's going to know about us, the more it'll be able to emulate our actual personality and what our thoughts are. So what if we could... So at first the thought was like, well, show business might even be like going away, and I don't think it's going away, but it's definitely going to change.
Here's what happened.
What?
Tyler Perry has a big studio in Atlanta.
Sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. He just within the last week pulled an $800 million improvement to the studio because of what you just said. He goes, I'm not doing that. This is all going to be AI. Chat's got a new one called what? Sora. He goes, they'll be making Hollywood movies in the next 5 to 7 years. And what he said, they'll be able to rent out those celebrities' avatars.
Yeah.
As we don't need them. They might even be alive.
So here's
we're
what's
going to have
weird
Elvis
is
or Tupac come and star in a movie together.
Well, so that's what I thought was cool, but then that spins off into a different direction, right? So, and it's kind of crazy because with the amount of time that I actually spend thinking about this, I think about it very frequently, right? Because it's turned more into a hobby for me, just kind of thinking like, what is the future going to look like, right? I think about that from the standpoint of a parent a lot because another theory that I've developed recently is,
and he's got little kids. Your oldest is
11.
Yeah.
So I've 11, 9, and 4.
Yeah. So you should definitely be focused on what this looks like 15 years from now.
But here's the well, you have to. And here's the thing, like
I don't so much because I'm so much older. I'm only looking at how can I maximize the usage for me now.
Sure.
And what a great, if nothing more, and I use it from like the jump when ChatGPT came out since October of 22. It's a brainstorming tool. I can clean some stuff up really quick. We use a lot of words around here, a lot of stories. So do I want to spend an hour doing this or I want to write 40 hours a week? Well, guess which I choose.
So your main job as a parent is to prepare your child to live in the world that exists. And I think this is why every generation looks down on newer generations, right? Because the generation that you grew up in was different from the generation that I grew up in, which is different from the generation that my kids grew up in.
That's absolutely correct.
Right? And so back in the day when we were all farmers and we all homesteaded the land, right? Everyone kind of lived more or less the same life. And everyone, and as you're living life, you start developing thoughts and tools and tips and tricks of how things are going to go, right? Well, then something changes, right? And everybody who isn't a part of that change starts saying, well, no, you can't do that, right? Because that's not the way we do things. And so it's always like, well, yeah, I don't know what's going on with this new generation, but that's just how we've evolved as a human species, right? And so another thing to remember with this whole thing is we are very much so in the infancy of our development of human beings, right? 100 years ago, we were shooting people in the streets of Tombstone, acting like animals, right? And so that wasn't very long ago. That was like, what, two people's lives ago?
1882, and my grandfather was born in 1882.
Right.
So I have that connection. Actually, a while ago when you were talking, I'm thinking if our grandfathers came back today and could see what they would – how would they even process it? If George Washington and Ben Franklin showed up today, how would they process what we're doing?
Right.
Because the last 100 years have been insane as far as technology. We went to the moon. It's been so long that we went to the moon that we don't even know how to go anymore.
Right. So as a parent, if you don't know the world that your kids are going to live in 10 to 15 years from now, because ever since technology has really hit, right, all we know is that there's been rapid advancements constantly, right? So it's kind of it's more of a thought process where as parents, we've got to stop thinking like, oh, I'm preparing my children to live in the world that I know, and this is what I did as a kid, so this is what they should do as a kid. You're not a kid anymore, and we used to ride our bikes from Friday when we got out of school until Monday when it was time to go back to school all over town, right? And that just doesn't happen anymore.
I grew up in the country,
right?
And I was driving vehicles at 13 because out of necessity, hey, run to the store, hey, go help these, right? Is that happening?
No, that don't happen
how far
anymore.
we've come? I was a butcher at 14 in my parents' grocery store. You think we'd get away with that now?
No.
I've got all my fingers, by the way.
So things change, and we've got to prepare our kids to live in a world that we don't even know what it's going to look like.
We don't know what it looks
either,
like yet.
Right?
Yeah.
So that there isn't a textbook for this. There isn't a handbook. Nothing. It's just you've got to stay up to speed with what's going on, because if you don't, then you have no way to. And I think a lot of parents struggle with this, and I think that's why they don't give advice to their kids. I think most people struggle
with that.
Yeah.
We had a road closure here, 2017, before you came along here, right?
Sure.
2015, 16, I'm trying to rally the troops and, hey, what are we going to do to help each other out and get through this? And you know what most people said to me? Yeah, I'm just pretending that's not going to happen. I'm just waiting for it to go away. And you know what? Out of 200 businesses right here in this area, 30 of them went out of business within a short period of time because then I'd say probably because they didn't have a plan to absorb the shock of businesses changing for a short period of time. Looking back at it now, it was a short period of time. It wasn't during those 700 days you couldn't get here.
Right. So let's circle back around to show business, right? So if I've got an actor's avatar, I've got their voice. I know how they say. I know what their tone inflection is. Right. This is all stored. Right. Now I can cast. Let's say I'm a movie director or a screenwriter. I don't know what term. I'm not in show business, but let's say I write movies, and I write a movie and I say, "Dang, the person for the main role would be. I'd love if it could be Robin Williams. That can't happen, right? He's dead. Right. But if I have his avatar, if I have his voice, I can cast him in the movie. I can make him do everything I need him to do, and that goes. So to a certain degree, I think what's going to happen in Hollywood is going to start looking similar to the way Spotify changed things in the music industry, which is because think about it this way. If you can make a movie solely with a computer, you don't have to have a set, you don't have to have cameramen, you don't have to have actors, you don't have to
catering company, you don't have to feed anybody, you don't have lodging, right? You don't have travel.
Yeah, you just go on to the metaverse and you see everybody who's willing to sell their avatar for a movie, right? And it'll be the same way it is now. If I want The Rock in my movie, it's probably going to cost me a little bit more crypto, right? And that's where it's going.
Well, throw it out
that's what
there.
it's doing.
That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not going to write a check for that.
No, we're not going to have dollar bills in the metaverse. Hell no. So it'll be some sort of crypto, and then I can shop from all of these cheaper actors if I need fill in stuff. I can make a movie for a very low budget. And then all it is selling that to whoever, you get it out there. It's going to gain, some movies will gain following, some won't. Just like songs, right? Any artist can go on Spotify, start an account, put their songs on it. The ones that make really good music and people love and it catches on end up being famous. The ones that don't. They still got their Spotify station. They're still a musician, right? Same thing with movies. You could make your own movie, but then it catches and it's on a trend and it goes wild all of a sudden and everybody's seeing clips of it and then a producer's gonna buy it from you and run with it, right? So there's gonna be a lot of really cool stuff like that, but then it's gonna make it to where people don't have to necessarily go out and act and do their job, right?
And there won't be sick days. They'll nail their lines every time.
Oh yeah,
we don't need 14 takes.
Nope.
Hey, here's a great watch for you if you haven't already watched it. It's on Netflix. It's called The Playlist, and
haven't seen it.
It's Spotify.
Okay.
It's a little bit fictionalized. Yeah. They said they're taking liberties, but it is a cool story. And I'm going to give you a little. There's 6 episodes, and they're all the same episode, but they're told through the lens of each of the 6 main characters that created Spotify.
Nice.
And you know what the guy said real quick? And it just keeps coming back to me as you say this. And I believe we're talking 2002, 2004. This guy, Daniel Ek, he was 22 years old when he created. He's like, everything's going to be digital. Everything is going to be digital. So he already had a plan in place before people even knew what digital streaming was.
So that was what birthed this just idea. Now, where it got out of control with me and my thinking is if that's possible, what else is possible, right? So forget Hollywood, forget showbiz, forget all of that. If we have a metaverse, everybody has an avatar, everybody's brain chipped. Our avatars are a direct extension of our living self that exists in the metaverse. Right, I can cast Robin Williams in my movie, who's been dead now for a while. Then what other opportunities does that present? So I don't know why I went down this path, but my second thought process to this was ancestry, right? So imagine this: my kids will know me. My kids may know me, maybe, who knows. But 3 generations from now, I won't necessarily really be remembered, right? They might hear my name a handful of times throughout their life. They may stumble across a couple of pictures, who knows, right? But if my avatar existed and it learned all of my behaviors and it knows all of my stories and it experienced all of my experiences with me as well, and it still exists in the metaverse, because why would my avatar die when I die, right? It's kind of like a Facebook page. When somebody passes away, their Facebook page is still there until the family takes it down. Right. If my avatar still exists in the metaverse, then my kids don't need to read about me or hear stories. They can come talk to me.
Yeah, you can read to your great-great-great-great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
You can read bedtime stories. Of course, they won't know what they are because they will evolve since then. But
Sure.
I never thought about that from that standpoint. That would actually be one of the cool aspects of what we're talking about for sure.
You know what? It really creeps out about 50% of the people that I talk about it to, and then the other 50% of the people really like it. Same thing could be done with pets. I think there's a big market for that too. Is like you've got a pet. Your pet can have an avatar, right? Your pet can be. I don't think we're going to brain chip pets, but heck, maybe, who knows? So
for me personally, I'm a history kind of guy. I'd love to be able to reminisce with my dad again, or talk to Abe Lincoln, or even if knowing that it's not the real them. I'd love that experience. Jesus Christ would be pretty cool to sit down and have a visit with. How cool would that be?
Right. So, and so it's kind of one of those things that it's like, yeah, it doesn't exist today, but the framework is there. And it's and just why wouldn't we go down that path, right? Because what seems to be consistent is we're living in a world right now where we wanna earn more and do less, right?
We've got the do less part down.
We're really good at the do less part. But think about this, right? So as a business owner, I can't even tell you how many times I've said, "Man, I wish I could clone myself." Right? I wish somebody could handle all these emails for me. I wish somebody could handle all these phone calls for me. I wish somebody could write these estimates. I wish somebody could do all of this. Right? I need another person. I will. Right. So I'll have my avatar and it takes care of everything that I need to. It runs my schedule. They're already talking about, let ChatGPT run your schedule and create your calendar and do all of that kind of stuff. I'll have that at my disposal. And what's good about that is, unlike our physical selves, where I'm limited to where I can be at certain times and everything like that. Well, time and everything really isn't going to exist.
Still relevant in that world.
Yeah. I mean, I could have my avatar talking to 5 other people's avatars at the same time, right? I don't need to be limited to just one avatar. They could be out there taking care of all of the business. It's just feeding right back into me. I now know the information and I'm moving forward. Now, sounds awesome, but eventually what ends up happening, but think about what that really means, right? Now I'm a slave to my avatar, right? Now I'm dependent upon the information that my avatar is bringing to me. But I really like it, right? It's cloned me.
Yeah.
It's getting all of this stuff done in record time. But now the more I rely on it, the more I rely on it, the more I rely on it, pretty soon what I'm doing is I'm just waking up, taking commands from what my avatar knows that I should be doing for maximum efficiency throughout the day.
Yeah.
So where does that switch happen? Pretty quick.
Yeah, it happens real fast.
Right? That's why we can't put down our phones, because the phones makes things so much more efficient, right? When before phones, when you wanted to figure something out, you had to kind of go out and figure it out. Now you just Google it, watch a YouTube video. Oh, that's how you do that. Boom, you move.
Can
right?
you imagine that? Watching the YouTube video. I grew up in the era we had pamphlets and we had and they were all dated 1947. You know, to whatever you needed to learn, electricity and what have you. It's kind of like my kid, who's the same age roughly as you guys are. He's like, and he was little. We'd have a computer problem with our tower, and he's like, "Stand back! I've been messing with these my whole life." Well, you guys grew up with those.
Right.
Do you even remember a time without a computer in your home? I mean, your parents probably had one.
I don't think we
You're
got
not
one
that
until
old,
I
but,
was
I mean, you're
like
not
13.
Okay.
So I'm on this like weird, like I remember running around riding bikes, shooting BB guns in the backyard, doing all and not having any answer that I needed at my disposal. Right. I remember those times.
It was an encyclopedia in the class, and again, they were 1947s when I was a kid growing up, so there wasn't any current.
I'm also a slow adapter, so anytime like new technology or new social comes out, I'm usually like the last person of all my friends to get to it because I know what I know and I like what I know. So I'm only able to think about these things. Like I'm awful with them.
I was 62 when I got on Facebook for the first time. Now it's stupid what I do there now, but
Sure.
the same with AI. Once I'm kind of like you. And by the way, as a kid growing up, we didn't have TV in the house till I was a teenager. There were too many other things to do. We had a baseball field in our backyard and rode our bikes and worked. And there's a lot of correlation between what I saw as a young person growing up in TV, and then I watched computers come in. Now I'm seeing this with AI. AI is all these things on major steroids, but when TV first came out, rolled around, and if you look at old TV stations, there was a lot of good stuff on there, and there was a lot of garbage on there.
Sure.
If you look back at some of that stuff, there was some violence. You didn't see the gore. You didn't see the explosiveness that you do now, but it was a lot. Then computers was going to change our world. I sold some of the very first computers I ever sold it at this company called Radio Shack, the Tandy Corporation. Yeah. See, things evolve. They grow. Some things go away. I remember saying, and we all believed it, paper's over. We don't need paper for anything. All computers did was generate more paper. Now we can do it quicker, faster, more efficient.
Right.
Right? I see AI kind of in that. TV changed the media world. Computer changed the business world, and now AI is going to change the world.
Yeah.
And there's good players and bad players. My dad, I can hear him now as when we were kids about TV and stuff, was like, it's not the TV, because there was a lot of rallying cries. TV is bad. Mm-hmm. It's not the TV. That's a box. It's the programmers. Who's operating this? Who's creating the product that goes in here?
This is weird. This is what I've been stewing on the most lately.
What's that? What keeps you awake at night, Daniel?
Because the more I think about this, the more I realize I don't know what good or bad is, right? Like
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying.
Some of the worst things that I thought could have ever happened to me, had they not happened, I wouldn't have what I have now, which is phenomenal, right? And then the other part,
the case,
and then there's been other times where I've like, oh, this is the best thing that could have ever happened to me, only for it to bite me later. Yeah. So for one, I don't know the difference. And I'm a really bad judge of saying what's going to happen in the future. So who am I to say that any of this stuff is bad at the expense of prolonging human evolution? Because that's all we are. That's we're you and I are alive at this stage in human evolution. That's it.
Yep.
Right? Like humans are going to look completely different than we look 300, 400 years from now. 1,000 years from now, right?
And if you don't believe that, go back and look at old pictures of our family.
Exactly.
And they're 25 years old and they look 70.
Right. Or look at pictures of what the human species looked like 1,000 years ago, right? So it's just we're just in that we're in this stage, which is kind of cool because I feel like a lot of cool stuff is going on.
We say it all the time here. What a great time to be alive! All this fun stuff advancing, and don't you think a lot of this? Both sides, the naysayers and the ones that's trumpeting, they're just trying to get attention. They're just trying to sell a newspaper or an article. I know I heard a lot of early people when chat first came out, and I won't name names, but some really smart people that I have a great deal of respect for, talking to other people and saying, Chat GPT, and there's a new one called Claude that's fantastic. It's smarter than you right now.
Right.
It's already smarter than you are. So why would you ignore something that you already know is smarter than you? Now, your responsibility, my responsibility, you certainly as a parent, is how do we harness that power? How do we make it work for good for us? How do we make it shorten our day or make us more efficient?
Right.
Right? Now, there are plenty of people that are going to go on there, as any good thing is, and they're going to try to rock the boat, and they're going to try to take advantage of it, and they're going to try to manipulate people.
We don't like change.
People hate change.
We don't like so let's cross this bridge. and maybe we'll see this in our lifetime, but because I honestly think that my kids would probably be okay with getting brain chip. Like when we start talking about Neuralink, everybody's, oh, heck no, I'd never let them put that in my head and blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure most kids under the age of 10 today, maybe even a little bit older, like it's just going to be the thing that ends up happening, right? And the more people do it, the more normal it's going to become. So, but let's say I have that, and all of the information that I need to get in my brain just gets downloaded into my brain. What we don't need to go to school. We don't know school. Yeah. So what does education look like, right? Because if I want to know what happened in this book, I just download the book. It's in my brain now.
Honestly,
I know what
that
happened.
stuff bothers me.
Sure.
For me personally, and I'm old, so I won't have to face that. But I think you're right. I think a lot of people would just get in line to do this.
Absolutely.
I think our previous
Why wouldn't they?
From 2020 to right now, I think we saw it. Most people just will get in a line without really. I need to be convinced.
Sure.
And I can see, certainly in the case of issues, physical issues, or things that put in there to help paraplegics move, or that sounds to me like cool.
Sure.
But to help me think and learn and grow, I'm not that's just me. I'm not a big fan of that. Although, wouldn't it be cool if you could skip 22 years of education and become a doctor overnight? That'd be, but I don't think you can. That's where I think the reality of, I don't care how much information and knowledge you have, unless you know how to put to practical use, it's irrelevant.
Sure.
You know that old Kennedy statement, knowledge is power? Applied knowledge is power. Knowledge by itself is actually just dormant.
Well, I think that's the fear with AI. I think if AI is coming up with the plan, what ends up happening is humans just become the workers
we're robots.
For the computers. Yeah, we become the robots, right? Instead of the computers being the robots,
here's why. They don't. A computer or a robot does not have a heart, a soul, those things that create empathy and stuff. That's what separates humans from a robot, because you can emulate pretty much a robot now, almost down to the skin tone and stuff, and the feel to make them look basically human, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't make them human.
No. But
they could do the work of a human. They could.
Sure. What I really like about this thought, if we can get it to go, is imagine being able to be the most mentally and physically aware of your body, because if I've got my avatar in the metaverse and it's linked directly to me, and it knows when my blood pressure is up, it knows when I'm feeling down, it knows everything about me, right? It can help with that. Right?
I don't know. This does a pretty good job telling me where I'm at, what I'm doing, how long I've done it, and
well, what I really think is interesting about it is like with depression, which seems to be something that everyone has now, yeah, I don't understand it, and I don't really go down that road.
Yeah,
but imagine, but I know it's real, and I know there's a lot of people who struggle with it, and I know it is a SOB to figure out and get on the right level and get your everything leveled and all of that kind of stuff. So, wouldn't it be cool if our avatar, who was a direct extension of ourselves, knew when we were starting to get into those slumps of depression, right? Could alert emergency services if needed, could, kind of take care of those things. It would know what your blood alcohol content is and whether or not you're too drunk to get behind a wheel of a car, or your Tesla just drives you home where you don't have to drive anymore. So all of these things are possible in this world that, I really don't think is that far off. I think we're going to start.
End of this decade, a lot of that will be happening. At the end of that's 5-6 years. That'll happen in that time frame.
Well,
it will.
Well, you need the kids.
I'm not saying everybody's going to get to sit at home and their robot's going to go do the work for them. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that I know this, in the next 6 years, we're going to move a lot quicker than we did the last 6 years. And if we got here in this 6-year period of time, which a lot of this stuff is really being released, where will we be in 6 years? You tell me. I think it'll all be, movies will be being made for certain.
I think
and
so.
you will not be able, the basic stuff will happen.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of that stuff you're talking about, that I'm gonna jump in here with some spiritual stuff. A lot of, you know what? I'm not a depressed guy. I can tell by looking at you, you're not a depressed guy. I know it's real. I know it's legit. I feel bad for people that have it. But a lot of this, I'm going to go spiritual now on you. A lot of it is your faith.
Sure.
I really believe that. And the deeper your faith, that doesn't mean you don't have bad days, or some days are better than others. But that really, and part of what you're talking about is the part that I would push back on some of this. For me, not for anybody else. Part of the fun and charm and excitement of life is to fail, not know it all. You know, we joke. My sister and I've got I got a couple of younger sisters and a younger brother. But my one sister, she's a doctor, so she's all up anal and stuff, right? And myself, and I'm kind of that way. And we always say, if we were only king for a day, or queen for a day, and my mom goes, oh, well, but the trains would run on time. But part of and she's like, yeah, but that's all there is. The trains are running on time. There's no room for error or human, right? And that's part of the fun and charm of life, is sometimes you learn more, as you mentioned a while ago, from a failure or a loss or some skint knees than you did from just cakewalking in. So a lot of this, I get it. And quite frankly, I'm going to go really deep. A lot of people, you probably need some kind of artificial intelligence, because you're lacking a whole bunch. Yeah, and you're showing right now, by the way. Does that, you know where I'm kind of coming from on that?
I do, but I think what I
guess what I'm saying, I want to still be in control of the artificial intelligence for me.
Everyone does, and I think that's everyone's biggest concern. I don't see it being possible. The further we go into it, and I don't think anything's going to be put the brakes on. So, for me, as a person who lives in this world.
With small children again.
As opposed to saying, nope, I don't want it, and I'm never going to allow it. That's mighty cocky of me. It's just going to happen, and I need to be ready for it.
Like I say, it's already there.
Yeah.
If you've got a new vehicle, there's AI all over your new vehicle.
Sure.
When it warns you you're drifting out of your lane, or you've let go of the wheel, or you're too close, or the red comes on and shakes you that you're getting ready to hit somebody, that's AI.
Right. So our bodies will have the same exact thing, right? It'll know when we're close to danger. It'll know when we're feeling excited, when we're feeling down, when we're doing all of this. We'll actually be able to tap into like the innermost, the most aware of ourselves as humanly possible, right? Which is cool.
That is cool.
Now, the downside to it is
cool.
you lose all of your control, right? So how do we? That's the hard part. Is there like what makes, I believe, humans different from any other race is just, or not race, for species, is the fact that we feel emotion. We have thoughts, right? So instead of, where was I going with that? So that's what makes us
dial
different.
that AI
as
back.
humans.
Let's stay on track here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the problem.
Can you help us out there, Scott?
That's the problem.
Throw that wave in there, bud.
I get too like scatterbrained with this stuff because I try to think in all these different areas.
What do we call that? There's got to be a word for that, because I think digital. I think there is. What is it? Digital brain. Because you do. How many times a day do you go, what was I doing?
Oh, all the time.
And mine's not old age. It's just I was doing something 30 seconds ago, and something on the internet or something.
So where I was going with that was, I think humans strive, even though we know it's not possible, we always strive for perfection, right? That's why we idolize the famous people, the models, the actors, and we live in this very superficial social media world where we only select the pictures that we want to share with everyone as being the perfect pictures. We want to get rid of all of the bad ones, right? Like, so even though we know it's not attainable, we're still striving for it, right? So the only way to achieve it would be to make us all basically robots, right? Now I know everything that there is to know. I don't need to learn anything. All of the information is is there. I can access it whenever I want to. I can do everything the right way.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. I don't know. How do you feel about this? I think that's part of the human experience, that if everybody can do it, then there's no reward or compensation for it, or even a feeling of satisfaction of achievement.
No,
because you already know it.
No, those things are going to be gone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Very
I
unfortunately.
think that's a very essence of a human being, though.
Sure, but right
So
now,
So let me rephrase that. How do we take what we both agree is it can be used for good? AI can be used for good. We're already using it for good.
Sure.
And you won't have an answer because there's no way to fix this. But the key is, how do you make it be our servant, our robot, etc.
We will.
But without relinquishing control. And I'm not a control freak by any means, but I want to be in control of my thinking, my thoughts, my process, my choices. I don't want Avatar Clint doing that for me.
Sure.
I want him to do what I need him to do for me to achieve it.
The chances are is you will, but then you're going to die.
Yes, I am.
Right? And the generation who comes after you is going to be willing to give up a little bit more.
I know that.
And then
for
the
a
generation after them is going to be able to give up a
Absolutely.
little bit more. So fast forward 300 to 400 years down the road, 6 or 7 generations later of people saying, "Oh no, I'm good with this avatar running the show for me."
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like the world we
It
live
won't
in
take
now.
6 generations.
No, probably not. We live at this time in human evolution, and it's all going to change.
Yeah.
It's all
That's
going to be
a fact.
different. Now there's a lot of good questions that come up. If I have an avatar behind the scenes that can take care of all of these things for me, and so like imagine this, right? Imagine needing services. You need a new roof put on your house, right? Instead of you having to call multiple contractors, have them come out, do the inspection, blah, blah, blah. Your avatar just meet with the contractor's avatar behind the scenes, arranges it, shops the best price for you, shops the best product, gets it going.
Yep.
You just see roofers show up at your house one day doing it to do it, right?
I'm good.
So everything's automated and streamlined. So when you start looking at things like that, it's like, heck, that sounds great. But so that's what it's going to do is it's going to make you relinquish some control just because you're like, oh man, that sounds great and super efficient. But if that's possible, what else is possible, right? And that's what and so that's how it keeps taking steps closer and closer to eventually humans just relinquishing all control and letting the AI run the world for us.
If the world stands that long, that'll be what. I don't think it'll be 5. I don't think it takes 300-400 years. Honestly, I think it because again, think about 100 years ago, maybe a little, 125 years ago, no one flew, no one drove really cars to speak of. I mean, it was still horse and buggy. 100 years ago, they were opening the
you and I
66 and all that.
say 100 years ago, and we think starting at 2000. So 1920. It was the 1920s that it was the Ford Model T. So all of these were brand new, right? So just think, 20 years prior to that, horse and buggy, right?
For 4,000 years of recorded history, it was horse and buggy.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, in the last 125 years, we're mobile. We can move around. We got space age. We're going to the moon. We got computers. We got calculators. We got phones. We can talk to anybody, anywhere, any place, anytime.
So
and that all. I sold computers in the 80s. We didn't dream of this.
And that's how it's going to get us, right? So that's because here's the thing, right? If you think about a car or a horse and buggy or a plane, I like to think about those things as just they're the early stages of time travel. Right? Because it used to take me 30 minutes for me to walk X amount of miles. Well, now I can drive it, and we're just shortening the time.
Right.
I can fly it, and it's an even shorter time, right? So now think about this. Now we've got self-driving, fully autonomous vehicles, and so this is just a phase in making the time quicker, right? Everybody says that autonomous vehicles scares them. Honestly, I wish everybody had it.
Yeah.
I completely
absolutely.
trust an autonomous car than I trust you, because
Don't pick me because I'm the best driver you know. But yes, I agree with you
everyone
100%.
thinks that. So I would much, I think.
I don't think that. I know that.
Yeah, I know. Car accidents are like one of the leading deaths, right?
They're not accidents, though. They're collisions. All
Right.
of them are preventable on 99.999. It is. We still kill 40,000 people every year in the United States.
So if everybody's cars was autonomous and all of the cars knew,
I think that'd be great.
where
I'm fine
everything
with
was, and they weren't running into each other. Well, now, if everything's gridded out and everything's got a plan and it knows how to avoid the other cars out there on the street and we're accident free, so to say, or mostly accident free, then let's turn up the speed, right? Now, instead of going only 45 miles per hour,
90, 100.
Because 45 miles per hour is what somebody has determined is the safe speed limit for a human to drive. Well, if the car is driving itself and all of the other cars on the road are driving themselves and they can all avoid each other, then yeah, heck, let's turn that mile per hour up. Let's get to where we're getting faster, right? And so, do you do you think people 200 years from now are going to be content with the rate of travel that we travel at today? No, they'd be like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? Those guys used to go 75 miles per hour. They were like crawling, right? They were basically turtles.
It took them half a day to get to Phoenix.
Yeah, it took them 2 full hours. What idiots, right? They didn't figure it. So as things become more pushed in that direction, just all of these other things are going to speed up naturally.
I think of the story in the Bible, Moses and the children of the Israelites escaped from bondage. They wandered in the desert for 40 years, and I always like, wow, how far were they going? You know how far they were going?
No.
12 miles.
Yeah.
Took them 40 years to not get there.
Yeah,
I mean, we should have got there in about a day and a half, shouldn't we?
Right. Yeah. I think my wife and I went to Vegas a couple weekends ago. And
How long did it take
we
you?
We walked around all the
Okay.
strip, right? But I think in just a couple of hours, or at least in one day, we walked like 9 miles.
Yeah.
Legs were tired at the end of the day, but
I mean, you guys are still kids.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming up on an hour. I think this is going to be a two-parter, Scott.
It might have to be.
Where you at, Mr. Rob? There he is.
Hey, I got a question for you guys.
Talk to us.
So, we're talking about all of these changes, and I think there's two primary drivers in my mind when I see things change and evolve. And it's, can somebody make money off of it? That's usually a driver. And does it improve your quality of life? Because ultimately, I think we've seen a lot of these changes happen very quickly that maybe on the surface have improved some quality of life, but you've also got a mental health crisis that is quadrupled. So I think that's an illusion. And as more things happen, what do you think people will do that will even consider as a quality of life event if everything can do something for you?
So I guess my question to your question would be, how far out are we talking? Because I think 100, 200 years from now, I think human beings are going to be motivated by so much more than just money. And it's one of the questions that I have with all of this is what does happen to money, right? Because we're already talking about crypto, and we're already to a certain degree, I almost feel like we're going to be going back to kind of like a hybrid trade and barter system, as opposed to having money that's out there and at disposal. So it's like, because AI is going to wipe out a ton of jobs, right? The only thing that I feel kind of safe with is I think it's going to be a while before a robot's up on somebody's roof swinging a hammer. I'm sure somebody will figure it out someday. Or maybe we just don't have roofs in the future that really even need to be worked on because they're perfect, right? So I think quality of life is going. I actually think AI to a big degree is going to make quality of life for humans so much better. I also think that it's going to start categorizing us into almost different species of humans that gravitate to everyone who's a human right now. Everyone just kind of thinks like we're all the same. I don't believe that. I think each human is different. I think that we're kind of more like dogs have different breeds. I think there's different breeds of human. And some are more wired to handle stress better. Some are more wired to not handle it as good. So so trying to kind of classify each person and getting them to where they're going to thrive and be the happiest, because the more you think about it, the more you're really just saying, I'm just on this earth. I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. I just showed up one day, right? And I've got roughly about 80 years. And then I don't know what's going on after that, right? But I've got 80 years to be here. I would love to see a world a couple hundred years from now where people don't spend the first 60 years of their 80, if they're lucky, working. In school and working, right? And then they're so old by the time they're done, stop working, they want to start traveling the country and explore and do things that they don't feel healthy enough to do it, right? You miss out on a lot of time. So I really hope, I guess this is my hope, I really hope that the vision for the future is more focused on quality of life, everyone being here, just doing what makes them happy, as opposed to doing what's going to make them money, what's going to make it. And now I don't know how that happens. I haven't figured that out yet, but that's what I hope it moves more towards.
Hey, Scott, I want to jump back to something you just said about mental health. Come back in here with us real quick. I want to talk about that just briefly. Quadrupled in, and I'm not questioning the number. I just want to know what time frame that we were experiencing those results from.
Oh yeah, I don't want to get fact checked too hard on it.
No, just
but I mean,
like
it's
ballpark
a general
it.
feeling. So I'll give you an example. Working in the fire service, we run all the emergency calls, and the amount of suicides that take place would blow your mind. Because I used to think when I would come in as a paramedic, if something happened, somebody died and it was self-inflicted, like you would hear that on the news, and that's not only is that not the case, but it's happening all the time. And it's gotten more and more and more over the years. And then I think you have all the complications of the lockdown. And what I personally have been searching for is try and define what is quality of life. Because if you're going to start wrapping yourself into AI to help you be more efficient, like Daniel said, you could be a slave to it. And then is that better? And there's a tough balance because you don't know. But for me personally, quality of life is innovating and creating and working hard. And a lot of those things AI is kind of looking to replace. I mean, when you talk about creative endeavors like Hollywood, well, you have all these creative people that want to make beautiful music, or they want to make beautiful videos, tell stories, and now they don't have to. So there could be some resistance to that, because we still need humans to want to connect with other humans. And if that's going to be replaced, I'm just curious as to your guys' thoughts, like what's it going to be replaced with in terms of what would you do for fun, right? Like if you could have AI handle all your business stuff, what would you spend your time on? I'd be curious.
That's a great question. I love that question, by the way.
And
go Daniel.
I think most people say I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't even picture that life, right? I think for me, I want to spend the most amount of time that I possibly can with my family, doing the things that we want to do that bring us joy, right? But I mean, heck, sometimes even on a weekend, for the 2 days that I do really try to take off, sometimes even on a weekend, we just sit around on Saturday. Oh, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do?
Well, and think about that for just a second. And it just triggered when you said that. Okay, you want to be able to do things with your family, which I think that should be an answer that most people would give, whether they really mean it or not. But okay, so does that mean going somewhere or doing something, or going to Disneyland, for example, or going to an event or going places? Is that kind of what you mean? From some of the standpoint, I mean, hanging out at home is great. Get a pizza and watch a movie. My point is this. Here's my question. Well, if you're going somewhere, then someone has to be there to receive you and entertain you or take you through the process of whatever it is you're doing. So unless they've got their family with them. You see where I'm coming with this?
I do,
So-
but actually there is a part of that. This was one of the things that I wrote down too. Is travel is going to be very, very different in the future as well. And not to say that there's necessarily a way to replace going somewhere and being there physically to experience yourself, right? But let's pretend you want to go to Rome and see the Colosseum and take the tour, right? You just go through VR,
Yeah.
and they're there to walk you through. You're able to experience that, not actual there, but you can experience it through VR with one of their tour guides.
Tour guides, right?
That's probably an avatar.
Yeah. That
says the same
the real
thing
person sitting at home with their family eating pizza.
Right. So this might even bring more things, right? If we're stuck at home with a family, nothing to do on Saturday, we say, hey, you got, we all throw on our headsets. Hey, let's all go here. Or let's all go there. And let's go check that out. Like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's still not now. You're not going to be able to eat the pizza.
Yeah.
Right. But I wasn't fond of the pizza when we went to Rome, anyways. But
The real deal is this.
I tried to order pepperonis and I found out that's an American only thing, and I was bitter about it for the whole rest of the trip. But yeah, like there's going to be some parts you're not going to be able to take advantage of, but you're going to be able to do a lot more as well. And if the kids don't have to go to school in this future world, it really is like, what are you really doing?
Here's my take on it. I'm going to wrap it up with this from my end. And you know what? I want to hear Scott.
Okay.
I want to hear Scott's original material. I want to hear him playing the guitar. It'd be great if he's not available to have the package that I can entertain myself with, or any other artist movie. I want to see that creative side. But me personally, how I intend to use AI for the rest of my life as I see it now. I mean, that could change like in the next 30 days, something crazy could happen. But I want it to assist me, period.
Sure.
I don't want it taking my place. I don't want it replacing me. I don't want it thinking for me. I want to do the thinking. I want Scott doing the writing. If AI needs to improve it or polish it, I'm really cool with that. Now, your take is going to be different because, again, you have small children. You're half the age I am. You're going to deal with this a lot longer. You need to be proactive in your thought process.
You know what I think the answer is? I think the answer is we will figure it out.
I think that's exactly right.
Because so think about this, right? Like think about baseball.
Okay, you got my attention.
Hasn't always existed.
Yep.
Someone invented it.
Yep.
Right. Actually, let's talk about basketball. Dr. James Naismith, right?
Yep.
Invented the game of basketball, right?
Right.
I think we're just going to
old.
come up with more stuff to do, right? We'll figure stuff out.
Remember this from school? Remember he hung a peach basket. There was no bottom. They had to climb up with a ladder. That's how infrequent they scored in the original basketball.
Yeah.
It was at the YMCA, and the one or two baskets you'd score on a Saturday afternoon in this competition, you just climbed up with a ladder, took the ball out of the peach basket, and
yeah.
A
couple hundred years from now,
we're not doing that.
A couple hundred years from now, or maybe even just 100 years from now, we're going to be doing some new stuff to fill our time, right? So the more time that we can make accessible to us, right? Because I think everybody can agree that we spend too much time in school, we spend too much time in work. If you look at the percentage of your life, of most people's life, of what they spend school and work,
right.
And then you've got this really small period of time over here that is when you're supposed to be enjoying life. But then so many people's health is declining by the time that point gets around that they're really not even enjoying it at that point, right? So what I'm thinking is how do I free up the years that I'm in my prime where I feel good? I want to be out. I want to be doing stuff. How do I free up that time instead of working 80 hours a week and right after I get out of school where I was going to school all the time, right? How do I actually enjoy those years? And I think AI could make that very possible.
Yeah.
Which is again a positive to it. Not to say there aren't a million negatives.
Daniel, it goes back to everything else in life. It's all about creating the right balance for you.
Right. Well,
Because what I do might be a little different than yours. We're both ambitious and we go, but we're at different stages in our life. I tell David that all the time. He's raising 2 little ones. He's got a baby and an almost baby at home. She's just almost 3. Well, I don't do that, right? I've got 2 dogs.
Right.
Tammy and I go home to basically an empty house. We're in different phases, and yet we're accomplishing the same thing. We're just accomplishing it in a different manner because he has different needs than I have.
Sure.
And this is all about balance with AI. I dig it. I'm telling you, I dig AI, what I see. The stuff that, again, thermostat. I don't want to have to get up and turn my thermostat on and off every time I need to be warm or cool. I need that capacity. I need my car taking care of me and tell me if I'm drifting. I want AI or chat or Claude to help me write a letter. I want that.
Yeah.
I want to, and they can do it so much quicker. I have a buddy that writes a lot, and he's
Well, that's
like,
good because it's not going away.
well, Clint, you're going to all get the same thing, and I'm like, well, no, not really. If you and I put the same prompt in, we're absolutely probably going to get the same thing. But I'm working on my prompt. Matter of fact, it's using AI for me as I am a way better writer now because I think about what I'm trying to accomplish, more detail up front. A lot of times you've got an idea and you're like, well, how did I get there? And we'll go this. Well, I know now if I'll take a little more time in the outset of my inquiry, I'm going to get a much better result at the end of the day.
Sure.
By doing it, by spending a little extra time up front. Because remember the old statement, garbage in, garbage out? Actually, goes back to the Bible. You will reap what you sow. Okay. And the computer business made it garbage in, garbage out. It's the same here. If you put good stuff in, you're probably going to you can expect good stuff back. If you put garbage in, you know what you're going to get back?
Yeah, it's laws of life, right?
Garbage.
Yeah. I mean, so I like to think about it from this standpoint, right? Imagine a world where we're not filling up the first half of our lives with school and work, right? We've got the information that we need. It's just there, weirdly enough, right? What do you think? Like, I eat I eat awfully, right? Fast food every day, out of convenience, right? We live in a convenience world, right? Where everyone's so busy, everyone's so consumed with work, everyone is running 100 miles per hour, and then it's like usually around 1 or 2 o'clock each day, I'm like, oh, dang, I forgot to eat again. I'm hungry. That's right. That's what this feeling is, right? And then I just gravitate to whatever the closest, easiest, cheapest option is.
Guilty?
Yeah, of course. I think everybody is guilty, right?
I don't know about everybody. Most people.
most people. Yeah. But imagine if I just had more time. Would I still choose to be that unhealthy?
Hey, you know what? Speaking of that, I just read, I think the percentage is 43% of all the people on the planet are now considered obese.
Sure, yeah.
I'm telling you, when I was a kid growing up, it wasn't 43%. Part of it was because we didn't have fast food. I remember the first McDonald's to move into my hometown, so I don't want to go off sideways. But part of that is part of this.
Well, no, modern medicine has only really been around since what? The 40s, 50s?
Yeah, 40s, 50s, all the shots. I've got all the pock marks and all the vaccines.
So a lot of people are running around saying right now that the first 200-year-old human has already been born.
Yeah.
Right. So we know that that
could be
because we're average lifespans, right? 100 years ago, the average life was less than it is now.
Yeah.
I don't know what the numbers are, but we just know they are.
We've gained a decade.
So in another decade or in another century, we're going to gain another century's worth of knowledge of the human body, the do's, the don'ts, right? Heck, I heard my parents and everybody else's parents talk about the 70s at the 80s. Oh yeah, everybody smoked, right? We didn't know it was bad. So I'm wondering, what are we consuming today that we don't know is bad? We're gonna figure out 20 years from now, right? Probably a ton.
Read your ingredients on the stuff you buy at the store.
Oh yeah. No,
because I forget what my wife was reading yesterday, and she's read it, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, we're just at this stage in human evolution. We're figuring stuff out. We don't know most of it. There's actually a ton that we don't know, and it's all trial by fire. And 30 years from now, we'll look back and we'll be like, oh, damn, all those Ritz crackers
let
is
me
what
tell you
killed
something.
us all. I don't know.
I haven't figured it out, but I'm telling you, as you get older, you sort of think you might have figured it out a little bit, and then you die. So
Right.
you kind of get a handle on what's going on and how to live life, and then it's over.
Then the whole world changes anyways.
Of course, I'm going to throw this in. I'm a person of faith. I believe in eternity. And a lot of what we talk about here, and I didn't get into that, a lot of what we talk about here, I'm going, ooh. Because some of this stuff is, to me, it's biblical. I'd start thinking about some stuff, and I'm like, yeah, let's be careful with some of that. When you talk about the money and stuff, that's where it gets dicey for me. I'm like, yeah, I want there to be money.
Sure.
I want there to be exchange of money. Bartering's okay. That's another form of money, but I don't want this. And when you talk about
But
chips,
if you don't need money, what do you need it for?
exactly. But when you talk about chips, that's another concern because you know where I'm going. I don't want to throw the big heavy word out there, but mark of the beast is a reality that's going to happen at some point. I don't know when.
So, I mean, from the money side of things, just think about this. Like, if we're the only species on Earth that needs it, right? Every other species that's here has figured it out. Tell you what, I want to be a dog because humans take
My
care
dogs.
Yeah, my
You wanna be
dogs
my
are
dogs.
spoiled, right?
Or my mom's dog. That's what you want to be, riding around a little cart.
I look at we got this English Springer Spaniel. I think she's about 8 months old now, and I just look at the quality of her life, and I'm envious, right? Because I'm picking up her poop, I'm feeding her, she's getting the best food, right? She's got this beautiful little crate and a nice bed, and she's got everybody to pet her. Nobody's ever mad at her, right? She doesn't need any money. She's not worried about it. She's perfectly fine. So why are we overcomplicating?
So Daniel's avatar is a dog.
I wish. Why do we as humans feel like we need to overcomplicate this life, right? Every other species has figured it out.
Yeah.
And we're the ones here trying to make it more difficult.
It took us an hour and 15 minutes to come back to keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And that applies with AI. Mm-hmm. Does it benefit you? Does it help you? Does it make you more efficient? I'm all for that. Who would not be? If it starts controlling my life or taking me in a direction that I no longer feel like I have control of, I'm not for that, ever.
Sure.
Under any circumstances. And it could be AI or drugs or alcohol or anything else that might influence relationships, right? Mm-hmm. It's all the same. It's all done in moderation, and you got to be careful of what you're spending your time on. Whatever you spend your time on, that's going to become what you are. And if we are locked into the phones. There's no doubt. All of us. And it really doesn't matter what age. I see little kids to old people got their phone out. No, and in the car, by the way.
And this is what's going to happen, right? We all know it. There's bad parts to it. We all don't want the bad parts to it, but the good parts are gonna supersede the bad parts. We're all going to do it. And then it's going to be weird because our kids 300 years from now are going to look back at the way we were doing things today, and they're going to be like, man, why were they making life so hard on themselves? That's crazy, right? They were still driving places, right? It's just nuts.
I think you nailed it.
It's just going to happen. It's on its way.
So here we are.
Don't turn it around.
Here we are. I don't know. 2 hours. Mm-hmm. No, not that long. That was fun.
Yeah.
Scott, are you still with us back there?
He fell asleep. Oh, there he is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got to unmute myself.
Yeah.
That's it's new technology.
Yeah.
Now we got three of us in here. So
that's cool.
Great discussion, gentlemen. I appreciate your perspectives.
Well, thanks for being here, Scott. Last official duty over here at the studio until he gets back from.
The only disclaimer I'd say, we still recording?
Yeah.
Yeah. The only disclaimer I think we might say is that this isn't my level of area of expertise whatsoever. I'm just throwing the random things that I think may happen someday out there. I did not go to school for this. I didn't study for it. I work construction, and I, for some reason, think about things like this from time to time, and we were just spitballing them.
Well, we were talking in the parking lot the other day, and I said,
I think it's going to happen, though.
Hey, I do too. And you know what? I don't need to offer a disclaimer. If you've listened to this far into it, you know for a fact I don't know what I'm talking about. So I won't offer any disclaimer at all. Hey, guys, thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
We'll come back in and talk about. We'll probably talk about this again because I think it is important, especially if you got kids. If you're right in the prime of your life, you are definitely going to be dealing with this a lot throughout the rest of your life. I think it's really cool to be an old dude and have this, these opportunities and experiences to play with cool toys and stuff. Are you kidding me? Hey, thanks for watching, guys. This is Clint with Now You Know. Local Marana. I think we did enough in there to do the local Marana tag.
Sure.
And you guys know how to reach out to us if you'd like to. Live the Dream Media, ltdmedia.net, 520-373-2059. Reach out to us through local Marana. This is Marana. We're sponsored by Copper Creek Cookies and Fresh Catering, Top, Blueprint Roofing. Thanks, guys, for listening. We appreciate it. Thank you, Scott.